The importance of that too is because if you don't know who you are, what you desire, you really can't show up for other people in your life.
Because your soul, you know what you want. Your soul knows exactly what you came to this world to do. But the spiritual journey is to uncover that.
And I think if a person's understanding and compassionate with their own body, their thoughts, their emotions, then they can be compassionate towards other people.
None of us have to settle for anything in any area of our lives that is not completely fulfilling and growing in the level of enjoyment and fulfillment we receive from it.
Welcome to Spiritually Hungry Podcast, episode 59.
Special summer edition.
Happy summer.
Maybe this one will be a little shorter than the previous ones.
Alrighty, I'll speak really quickly and cut you off so you can't speak.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be 5 ways to tell if you're changing for the better. Because we're all changing, not all change is great, right? And, you know, I consider myself a change junkie, so I am excited about this topic. And I want to kick it off by sharing my change junkie manifesto. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
All right. Monica's manifesto. 1, change is necessary to become your better self. 2, the more you know who you are, what you love, what you hate, what excites you, what drives you, the closer you are to achieving what you want. 3, be spiritually hungry. By the way, I wrote that before we started this podcast. Yeah. You yearn for something more, deeper, richer, lasting. No matter how great your life is, there's always another level and something new to discover. 4, continue always to celebrate who you are and where you are in your journey. Live life with joy, do what you love, and success will follow. 5, change requires action, urgent and immediate. Every day. That's the end of the podcast. Just kidding. So that's my manifesto. That's how I try to live my life. Very different than how I was born, raised, and also my life before we were married. Routine, certainty in my schedule. Don't deviate from a plan too much. And that is a formula for unhappiness, actually. So this is a much better way of living and being and existing, and it's true freedom at its best, but it requires surrender and flexibility. So here are the 5 ways to tell if you're changing for the better. You ready, Michael? You're so quiet over there. You know what you want, how to ask for it, and are in touch with your emotions. So that's number 1 of how you know you're changing for the better.
You know what you want,
how to ask for it, and you're in touch with your emotions. So basically, the more in touch you are with what's inside of you.
And again, I won't belabor this point, but I accept that many people have an issue with that. I'm trying to think for myself.
Oh, you're adorable. Yes.
Have I ever really not thought that I knew what I wanted? I think
you're an anomaly. I don't think you really understand. And I think that's actually why you are in the role you're in, and in that you lead a lot of people. I think that's what creates a great balance, is that I came from that opposite spectrum. And I think that when you the 2 pieces together, it's the head and the heart. I'm sure that's true. That
many people, I'm sure it's true even today, people we know very closely who have lived really a significant portion of their lives, right? But seem to have very little awareness of what they actually want. They could be 60, 70, 80. It's crazy. A person can go through life and not really take the time. Not just what I want today. I want a croissant. I want a coffee, right? But what do I want my life to be? It really is kind of crazy that too often, too many people go through life without really knowing what is it that I want to be? What is it that I want to accomplish? What is it that I want my life to be, rather than just living life?
The importance of that too is because if you don't know who you are, what you desire, you really can't show up for other people in your life. And that's when it gets complicated.
Explain that.
Because if you're not in touch with that aspect of you, then you're probably going to choose not the ideal partner for you, or the right friends, or the right environment, because you really don't know who you are, what you desire. So how do you know where to place yourself in life? It also affects how you're able to give to others and be there. Because again, if I don't know what I want and I don't honor that, then I'm just going to be there, and whoever wants to take from me, that's what my day will look like, right? And I think if a person's understanding and compassionate with their own body, their thoughts, their emotions, then they can be compassionate towards other people. So again, it's like there has to be that internal process that happens. So that's what you express out into the world and are able to offer and help other people with.
Yeah, that's a very important idea, because again,
I couldn't, when I was not in that place, even though I had a desire to give and to share with other people, I really couldn't, because I was so busy being affected by life. By everything that came at me, because I really had no idea who I was.
Because knowing what you want makes you a strong person, makes you a real person. And whether you're a partner, a spouse, or a parent, or a friend, unless you're a strong person, and meaning strongly knowing what it is that you want to do in life and be, it makes it much more difficult to have the right partner, be the right partner, and be the right parent in every area of our lives.
Yeah, and I often talk about this too. Small children have no compunctions about saying what they want, what they desire. They usually yell it, shriek it in lines in the grocery store. And at some point we lose that aspect of ourselves, and we don't ask for what we want. We don't even know what we want because we stopped listening to that voice a long time ago.
Right. And the beauty of it, again, is the fact that, I don't want to make this sound too easy, but you don't have to go out into the world to discover what you want. Your soul actually knows.
Within you.
You have to discover what you are, who you are. But it's really, I hope, and I think it's, if you think, and as some people probably do, I have to, travel somewhere to an ashram, whatever, to discover who I am, to discover what I want. Again, sometimes those journeys are helpful, but not that you're going to find anything new out there. Any of those journeys, any of those things that we do should and are only to enable us to discover what is already inside. Because your soul, you know what you want. Your soul knows exactly what you came to this world to do. But the spiritual journey is to uncover that. And I think it's very important to be careful not to think that I need to go outside of myself, either to another person or another place.
Often physical place. Yeah, both. People do both. Yeah.
Those can be helpful, again, as long as
or they can be misleading.
Absolutely.
If you don't know if you put yourself in an environment that's appealing, or that, you're susceptible to anything and everything.
Right. That's so, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Yeah. Number 2, you aren't settling for the easy road. Speaking of roads. So again, 5 ways to tell you're changing for the better. You're not settling. Some of those thoughts look like this. This isn't the job I really wanted, but I'm lucky to have one. This isn't the relationship I wanted, but he's a nice guy and he loves me. This is pretty good. I think I'll stop. Everything's fine. Why do things have to change? This is the danger zone. You've called it the place of the almost in your books. It is the place of good enough. And honestly, like, it might be good enough today. It will not be good enough forever.
Right.
That I can guarantee.
Or worse, it's probably worse if it actually is good enough forever, which means that you never actually experience life as it was meant to be experienced.
It's kind of like having your taste buds being dulled and your senses dulled, right? You can see, you can taste, you can smell, but it's not heightened.
COVID, right? How many people do we know, right, who lost their taste of taste and smell?
Yeah,
and it makes life much less
pleasurable, and your experience of it is half.
And when we settle, we're living life without really experiencing life. And I think it's so important to realize none of us have to settle for anything in any area of our lives that is not completely fulfilling and growing in the level of enjoyment and fulfillment we receive from it.
And I think whenever you settle, you always give up more than you expected to. Yeah,
and worse, like we spoke in last episode, that what happens is that it actually becomes
your being.
Exactly, you're a settler.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that, maybe you started just because you were settling, at home with your family growing up. You didn't allow yourself to really be who you wanted to be because, your parents weren't ready, whatever that was. And then progressively throughout life, if you do not fight that thought of, oh, this is good enough, this partner is good enough, this work is good enough, then you don't that it becomes actually what you are, at your essence, and you never get to experience any part of life to its most beautiful and greatest degree.
There's a quote from King Solomon. And he said, "The heart of the misguided people is almost." I love that quote.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really, again, unfortunately, not just speaking to our listeners, for ourselves, if we're not careful in life, we wind up almost. And living with intensity, living with fullness is what life is meant to be. How dull is your life in any area? How dull is your work life? How dull is your relationship? That's the question.
Right.
Because none of it should be dull. Not again, we've spoken about this in our, our wedding anniversary just passed, to those of our listeners listening to this podcast. But that the intensity of love never has to wane. Never has to wane.
It's not meant to, in fact.
Exactly. But you have to be living life with that consciousness in order for that to become a reality.
Well, that's where I think people really start to age. Their desire wanes, right? And I really think a big part of it is because they settle. It's like, okay, this is, I got to this stage in life. I had a good life. I don't know what I can do more. And they just get into that state. And when you lose that desire, you actually lose more aspects of your being than you realize. Your inability to change, to grow, to recognize new thoughts. There's just no more desire. When you don't have desire, it's really close to being dead.
Yes, absolutely.
3, you embrace challenges, small and large. We don't always get to choose what happens, but we can choose how we feel about it and how we react to it. So we've talked about proactivity and reactivity, but I think we can always use a refresher in that. When challenges occur in our lives, we can choose to have a proactive or reactive consciousness. When you're proactive, you're actively shaping your life in the way you want it to be. You're the cause, which I think is so powerful when you think of your life like that. Conversely, when you're reactive, you're responding to whatever comes up. So you're the effect. You're giving up your power. Reactive consciousness results in thought, words, and deeds that create instant gratification, but long-term chaos.
I'm not even sure instant gratification, right?
I think for a lot of people it is. Reactive consciousness,
it's not always gratifying.
In the moment?
Yeah, like something happened, we know that, we call them the sufferers, right? Oh my God, but
like if you yell at somebody and you that's still reactive. I mean, it's all reactive. I think again, it depends.
But my point is, I'm not sure. I don't think
nobody wants to be an effect versus a cause. I'm
right.
sure consciously,
but it's not always gratifying,
and it's also
right because like, using that example of a person who goes through life as the sufferer. So I don't think he or she is experiencing anything amazing, even in the moment that they say, "Oh, this is the next bad thing that's going to happen to me."
But being reactive about it and sharing it with somebody, they actually get a power in that and a strength. And it's short-lived. There is an immediate like, oh, I just dumped this on that person. I feel a little bit better. Because if they're suffering all the time, that's actually going to be a release. And so I guess instant gratification, you're thinking in terms of like, what would actually be fulfilling and positive. I'm speaking when somebody's already in a negative, that would even still provide some kind of release, right? But the point is, and I think we both agree on this, is that you want to eradicate that completely.
Absolutely.
4, you take action. So all change begins with a shift in outlook. That's where it starts. And any change we wish to see in our life begins with a change we make within ourselves. Knowing this, we establish a goal, visualize what we want, and develop a clear understanding of the steps necessary to achieve our goals. And then nothing happens. Why not, right? How many people set their goals and I plan this and why is it not meant to be?
And they often spend a lot of time thinking and even writing and planning.
And spending money or whatever, right? It's very elaborate. You understand why you want to change. You made your to-do list, and the only thing standing between you and your desired experience is you, along with your inherent aversion to change. And I know nobody wants to think that they are averse to change. We all want things to change, but we're really set in our comfort also. So in order for this kind of fundamental change to happen, you're going to have to let go of a lot of things that you're holding on to that make you very comfortable and complacent if you truly desire positive change. Like everything in life, change begins with a thought, a belief, an idea, and it starts with, again, a shift in your outlook.
But I think what you're saying, which is so important, is you're taking action, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a phrase in the sages use. They say your actions need to be greater than your wisdom. then you have wisdom, and then you have light. If your wisdom, which represents thought and understanding, is greater than your actions, then you don't have wisdom and you don't have light. And I think, you know, we have a dear friend who often uses the phrase, you know, there's people in this world that are manifestors, and then there's those who aren't. And I think what you're saying, which is so important, is for each one of us to ask that question. Yeah, of course, we all know you got to think about things before you do them. You got to plan them. But are you a doer? Are you a manifestor? Are you somebody who takes action? There's another understanding that if you are not taking action, you know, sometimes you have a good thought, I should do this, right? And then a day goes by or a week goes by and you never wind up doing it. There's actually a negative force whose job it is to let you have the great thought, let you have the great idea, just don't manifest it. And what you're saying, which I think is so important for our listeners, how do you know if you're growing, that you realize that you're changing, that you are taking many more actions, small ones or great ones, than you did before. If you're not taking more actions, doing more things than you did prior, then you're not growing, then you're not really changing.
Exactly. And really just don't wait for your life to happen to you and to
create
just,
it.
yeah.
Create it.
1,000%. And 5, you make mistakes and you learn from them. We are who we are at this very moment because of previous experience or experiences. Through that lens, our mistakes aren't bad. They're merely part of our journey. We can waste so much of our life regretting the past. And that's a scary and sobering thought, right? Living in that space all the time.
Unfortunately, we know people like that, right? That spend so much time in regret.
That they don't enjoy the present.
Exactly. It actually takes up all their energy, just feeling bad about what happened in the past. And how crazy is that? And I think that's
it's a waste of a life.
And that's the question. Again, it's important to reflect. It's beautiful to have some, you know, to bring back memories of the past. But are you looking forward or are you looking backwards? Life is meant to be looking forwards, which means that we are meant to spend most of my energy today in creating new rather than regretting past or even living in the past. How many people do we know that, you know, especially if right now life isn't exactly as they would want it to be, they will go on and on and on about what happened, how this great thing happened in the past and that great thing happened in the past. And what you're saying, which is so important, is that, and the question we have our listeners have to ask themselves is how much of my energy is forward directed? Which means when I woke up this morning and I spent my day, most of it was about the future. Most of it was about creating rather than looking backwards in regret or even enjoy, but looking backwards. If we are to be growing, if we are to be creating, we are looking forward a lot more in every single day than we are looking backward.
It reminds me of a movie, Life is a House.
Yes.
With Kevin Kline.
A very sad movie.
It's a very sad movie, but it's a powerful message because basically, and I saw this a long time ago, so I might not be 100% accurate, but this is how I remember it. He had a beautiful house. No, he didn't have he had a beautiful property, a house that was in this gorgeous place, I think in Malibu, something like that, on a cliff overlooking the ocean and sunsets and sun, gorgeous. And his house was completely run down and dilapidated. And he lived in like the garage in a small like cot, and the neighbors hated him because his house was an eyesore.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but as you're telling me this, I remember this movie, and I so did not remember any of that part. All I remember is that he died at the end. That's like my big memory.
That is horrible that you just did that because our listeners might have wanted to watch.
Sorry.
And you just killed it. And you don't want to be one of those people, okay?
I apologize.
Spoiler alert. So
sorry.
Anyway, as I was saying, so the neighbors hated him because they all had like gorgeous mansions, houses built new, right? Because the property, that whole space, the neighborhood was gorgeous. And yes, as Michael spoiled the end, he had cancer and he was very sick. And his relationship with his son was horrible. He had one son and his wife was remarried now. And he had so much regret.
I'm very impressed. You saw this movie with me like 15, 20 years ago.
Because it really impacted me. And the time we saw it, I was pregnant with Josh. I was feeling very vulnerable. And yeah, it really impacted me. And then I revisited it when my father started to get Alzheimer's. And it's actually, it was an impactful film for me. So basically all of like, and he still loves his wife and he dreams about her, and his days are just filled with regret.
I have to say. Very much.
And his son is like a teenager, and they're having, and the son needs to come live with him that summer for whatever reason. They have a horrible relationship. Cut to, they end up tearing down the house and rebuilding together and creating something beautiful that he knows he won't live in, by the way, right? Because he's dying. So it's this evolution of the life. He was stuck in this place of like pain and suffering
and past and
sadness and regret all day, every day. And then the transformation was he mended his relationship with his ex-wife. They were friends, right? And with his son, they built this thing together. And it was a beautiful thing to see a cycle of life. And then you watch and you're like, okay, I understand the lesson in this, but I guess for us now, right, where we have choices, change that around when you're healthy and you have the ability and the capability to live a life that's very different from maybe the one you're in now that's not serving you.
Right. Live in the present and future, not in the past.
Yeah. There's a quote from a Kabbalist, and he said that after making the greatest mistake ever, falling to the lowest place ever, if a person does not know that a second later he or she can ascend to the greatest heights, then he hasn't or she hasn't even begun any spiritual understanding.
Yes, it's a beautiful quote from Yisrael Avruzhin. And it's one of my favorite quotes because I use it for myself, but also for our listeners.
What's his name?
Rabbi Yisrael Avruzhin. Avruzhin is a town. And the idea being that, there is this negative force, negative thoughts that come into our mind, and especially after we've done something really negative. Oh, you got to stay there. I don't know, for an hour, for a day, for a month.
For a year or something.
But the understanding that literally the next second, after having done the worst thing in the world, you can attain the highest levels of growth, connection, light, blessings. That really puts the lie to that other thought that tries to come in. Oh, no, you just did something really bad. Take the time, regret, live the next day, week in regret. No, don't live 1 second in regret. Yeah, you fell. You did something really bad. Next second, you can be the most elevated soul that ever existed.
Powerful.
And it's really, I find it very, very inspiring. And again, useful for ourselves, any one of our listeners. Don't let regret, even after having made a mistake. Next, forward, elevation in 1 second. After having done the worst thing in the world, you can be the most elevated soul that ever existed.
Because again, as we said earlier, you're not the last bad thing you did. And also you're not the last good thing you did, right? We have both sides within each of us. And you're meant to keep rising above and
growing
and not being defined by any action.
Absolutely.
So happy summer, folks.
Yes, we hope that you enjoyed these special summer editions of Spiritually Hungry. Don't forget to go to Apple Podcasts, write reviews, 5-star reviews, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast, and share this podcast with all of your friends. Keep sending in your questions, comments, because even throughout the summer, we'll be reading all of your stories and questions as we prepare for the podcast continuing into September. Make sure to send us your inspiring stories. They continue to inspire us. And certainly those we get to share with the rest of our readers. And we really hope that you enjoyed listening to this podcast. And most importantly, I would add, the purpose of this podcast is not just, to have that inspiration in the moment, that you're actually changing your life, especially from this podcast, from any inspiration, wisdom you heard from us today.
Bye.